Hello everyone, welcome to this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. It's great to have you here with me today. We're going to be watching a couple areas, the Eastern Gulf off the southeast coast, and we're also going to be watching some big, strong tropical wave action out here into the MDR and the Eastern Caribbean. We're going to get into the details, especially later on in the forecast period for the Eastern Gulf, the areas around Florida. We're going to be taking a look at the potential for the tail end of a frontal boundary to flare up here, and this could be slowly heading westward. And we got some major tropical wave action, tropical disturbances lining up through the middle of the month into the late part of the month. And we'll also be looking at a very active weather pattern here all up and down the East Coast and Eastern North America. Let's get into it. All right, so starting off here with the tropics, we're going to watch those areas that I've outlined at the beginning of the video. We're going to be watching out here the MDR, especially around Florida, the Eastern Gulf, as we stretch through time. Now, starting off here, your eyes are drawn not to the Eastern Gulf, but look at these tropical waves out here off the coast of Africa. This is fairly unusual to see these kind of strong tropical waves so early in the season. You can see them propagating here across much of the intertropical convergence zone. Kind of crazy, but there you have it. Look at back through the Gulf and Western Caribbean. It looks clear as a bell with the exception of Nicaragua. Look at some gusty thunderstorms where it's got this tropical wave, kind of like a disturbance moving through Trinidad, Tobago, Grenada here through the 11th into the 12th. You can see a little bit of dust on the northern side, but as I said before, the dust is slowly clearing. Intertropical convergence zone is bouncing further to the north here, more in line with Trinidad, Tobago. Here's the Cape Verde Islands, and there's our area of high pressure. It's showing up further east than it is on the Euro, which I will be showing the Euro in a couple minutes from now. So here we go. This is the stalled tropical, front that's hanging out off the coastline here that we will have to watch for potential tropical development over the next several days to couple weeks here. And here it is on the 14th. The GFS, it kind of gets it going here north of the Bahamas, right across the Florida Peninsula. This is where we're going to be looking at some very heavy rain. We are going to go over those rainfall totals a little bit later on in the video here. Here's another strong tropical wave moving through Central America here as we head through the 14th. But look at the rest of the Caribbean islands. You may have a few showers moving through the middle of the month here. Jamaica, the Cayman Islands looking pretty dry through this forecast period section. But look at this. This is some strong tropical wave action out here in the Cape Verde Islands. And then this here into the Eastern Gulf, this is where things really start to congeal here around the 16th into the 17th. I'll show you on the Euro. It's looking a lot more impressive as well, but this run of the GFS is going more in line with the European model, showing this high pressure building further to the west here between Bermuda and Florida, pushing this storm further westward. So anything that develops here, we could have this system propagate towards the west, potentially affecting the Louisiana coastline. And look at how this thing really gets organized here. I'm just going to zoom out. Look how big that is. So you have the intertropical convergence zone out here. Still some waves moving across the Atlantic around this area of double barrel high, subtropical highs. There is the Gulf. That is where the action is going to be as we stretch. Look at this. This could be something for Texas. Keep an eye. If you're anywhere along the Gulf Coast, please stay tuned. Things could really get interesting as we head over the next week or two here. And we're also looking at another strong tropical wave just south of Bermuda here, something we'll need to watch, keep an eye on. But yeah, this could be coming into Texas right around the 19th or the 20th here on the GFS. And look at this, another strong tropical wave moving through Trinidad, Tobago, Grenada here, up to Barbados, St. Lucia. These areas also will have to be watching out for these tropical waves out here further into the MDR. And stretching across the last couple of frames here, you can see what's going to be happening. We're going to be continuing to watch that tropical wave east of the Bahamas and Florida. Look at this strong one southeast of Trinidad, Tobago, and a big, huge wave south of the Cape Verde Islands here. The last couple of frames showing, yeah, we could have some problems come later in the month here. We'll be watching this for Florida and the Bahamas, as well as the Lesser Antilles out here. Thanks to Tropical Tidbits here for our European tropical model analysis here. So as we just put things into motion, yes, I know the big show is obviously going to be here into the Gulf around Florida in time, but look at the Central America here. We're really increasing this with some tropical waves and even some tropical disturbances here southeast of Trinidad and Tobago. As we head through Wednesday into Thursday, you can see these shower and thunderstorm action. You might even get a few showers and thunder showers around Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, Dominican Republic. Let's get rid of all our circles there. There we go. So look at this. Off the U.S. East Coast, this is where we start to get that stalled frontal boundary. We also get this tropical moisture influxing with these tropical waves and disturbances and continuing across Central America here as well. Now, this high-pressure system anchors pretty well just east of Bermuda, pretty much stays anchored here. This old boundary, this is going to be the thing to watch as we head through the second and the rest of the third week here of July. Look at this. As we head towards Sunday, July 13th, this is where we have a big-time tropical wave entering the Western Caribbean. It could spin up some showers as far north as Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, Belize, Honduras. These areas are going to see some heavy rain down to Nicaragua as well. You'll get a little bit of some drying over towards the Lesser Antilles, but don't get too used to it because look what's just off your screen here. This is a very vigorous wave, and I would not be surprised if this has the potential maybe to become our next tropical storm, because this may be a little bit later on here in the forecast period, but here it is. We're watching two areas, a strong tropical wave, which looks like a disturbance at this point, and also this area around Florida on the tail end of this frontal boundary as we head through July 16th here and the 17th. Look at this, tremendous moisture, and that is only going to get worse here as this high pressure tries to build westward. It's going to push this further into the Gulf. Now watch this. As we head towards July 17th into the 18th here, look at this. This is some tremendous tropical moisture here. We're also watching this area for some potential tropical wave action and another wave moving through Belize and Honduras here. So watch out as we head through the 19th into the 20th. Look at this. This is some massive deep tropical moisture. In any one of these boundaries, these frontal boundaries to the north, it's going to pick up this tropical moisture and push it up the East Coast. Even though the actual tropical wave or disturbance or potential tropical storm is continuing to be pushed westward here into the rest of the eastern and eventually the central Gulf here. We're also watching this area southeast of Trinidad and Tobago, a big tropical wave moving in, but all eyes are going to be Tuesday, July 22nd. The models are starting to really go crazy as this high pressure continues to build westward. This may actually initialize as a tropical storm. Look at that, heading towards just off the coast of southeast Louisiana, the Panhandle of Florida, Mississippi, and Alabama. A lot to watch for here. And looking out across the rest of the Atlantic here on our European run, you can see this is what I wanted to show you out here. Look at the tropical wave action as we stretch through the rest of this week. Let me just back this up. The European is going crazy with some of these waves. Some of these starting to resemble tropical disturbances becoming potentially tropical depressions here. So this is really interesting to see this through July 13th here. You see, look at this. This one in particular as it approaches the Lesser Antilles. I've already talked about this one. And look at these waves just lining up off the coast of Africa and even throughout the intertropical convergence zone here. We're going to be watching this through the 17th, 18th. Look at this. This is one heck of an active intertropical convergence zone for mid to late July here. Look at this. Big time low pressure systems moving across just south of the Cape Verde Islands here. Sea surface temperature analysis. This is crazy. Look at off the East Coast into the Gulf. We're well above average here. And, of course, the Saharan dust has done its thing from the Cape Verde Islands to the Caribbean. Caribbean, you've had a lot of activity, so a lot of upwelling as well. Look at this flare-up, though, around the Lesser Antilles. We're actually getting well above average around Trinidad and Tobago up to Grenada and Barbados here. Watch out. And taking a look at our European model for the Western Caribbean. Yeah, this week in particular, we're going to see this moisture surge through Central America. Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, you may eke out 20, 25, maybe as much as 30 millimeters, even over towards the eastern part of Dominican Republic as we head through Friday. Now, watch next week here. This is through the 17th. You don't see much moving here except Nicaragua, eastern Honduras, Belize, where some of these areas could get close to 100 millimeters. As we stretch through Wednesday, July 23rd, still not too much activity. We are pinwheeling some of these areas in Jamaica, maybe as high as 60, 70, 80 millimeters. Portland Parish over here on the eastern tip, 120 millimeters. That's quite possible. As we head through Dominican Republic and Haiti, yeah, you could have some heavier downpours here, 40 to 80 millimeters. Puerto Rico, it's not looking any more than about a quarter to half an inch. Belize, though, look at this. Upwards of 150, 200 millimeters. Eastern Honduras as well. The rest of Honduras right around the 60 to 90 millimeter mark. And eastern Nicaragua here, upwards of 250 millimeters. Bahamas, you're going to start moistening up here, except for the Turks and Caicos. You have a rain hole here. But look at this. Some areas approaching 100 millimeters. As I said before, all of the big show is going to be over the Eastern Gulf as we head into the third week of July. And here across the Western Caribbean, yeah, it's Nicaragua and Eastern Honduras, Belize that get those areas that are close to 150, 200 millimeters here. Jamaica, the Cayman Islands here. It's really hard to come through rain here through next Thursday. Let's see if that it doesn't change too much here. A lot of areas staying below 20 millimeters here, but some areas, the eastern and western tip of the island, getting upwards of 60, 70, maybe 80 millimeters. Cayman Islands, sorry to say, most areas under 15 to 25 millimeters. Look at Dominican Republic, though. Depending on where you are, you could see almost next to nothing, and some of these highlands up here, upwards of 100 to 125 millimeters. Puerto Rico, looks like some areas getting upwards of 3/4 to maybe as much as 2 or 3 inches, especially the eastern tip of the island. And here we are, European model for the Eastern Caribbean. Yeah, Trinidad, Tobago, this is where things are going to get interesting over the next couple days. And then next week, watch out. You're going to see these big surges of tropical wave action. I would not be surprised if potentially the model is underdoing some of this. Some areas I think could approach 60 to as much as 120 millimeters here. Going down the Lesser Antilles Island chain, look at Trinidad Tobago area. I think some of these areas could approach 100 millimeters of rainfall. Up here in the Virgin Islands, you're averaging about 20, 30, maybe 40 millimeters. But going down the Lesser Antilles Island chain here, some of these areas could approach 100 or eclipse 100 millimeters as well. And the Eastern Caribbean here, this is where things are going to surge with tropical wave development here through the southern and central Lesser Antilles. Look at this. This takes us to the 21st. Trinidad, Tobago, up to Grenada, maybe as far north as St. Vincent here, Barbados. These areas could see anywhere from 100, maybe as much as 150 millimeters here on our GFS model. So watch out. And looking into the Eastern Gulf, Florida region for our potential tropical system as we head through the mid to late part of the month. This takes us all the way to July 23rd on the European run. Look at this surge of tropical moisture. It's a crazy amount. Some of these areas could see upwards of a foot of rain if this verifies. Watching this closely for you. And looking at our GFS run, comparing it to our European with that potential Gulf system, yeah, the GFS coming in lesser amounts here, but still, most areas are getting 2.5 to as much as 5 inches, and some areas getting upwards 8, 9, 10 inches, so watch out. A little bit of a break here into the Eastern Pacific. We do have a little flare-up off the coastline here, but it doesn't look like it's going to amount to much other than some tropical moisture moving towards the Mexican coastline here. Our next area of concern comes around the 12th. You see this area across the Eastern Pacific. That may try to develop into something next week, but the great news here, it looks like it'll be a potential hurricane, but a fish storm. Now going out into the Western Pacific, we still have Tropical Storm Dinas out here. That is moving in south of Shanghai here, so southeastern and southern China. That is going to be a heavy rain producer. Unfortunately, it's going to pinwheel rain backward across Taiwan, which was already struck by Dinas when it was a typhoon a couple days ago. So more moisture for you. Look at the Philippines, though. You're drying out except, the extreme south here. But yeah, unusually dry. Now let's go to the north here. Look at Seoul, South Korea. It's clear as a bell up here as we head through the end of the week. Also, you got some big tropical moisture just sitting off the Japanese coastline here. And this may try to spin up some areas of low pressure. We're going to continue to watch it here. Look at this. It stays unusually dry here up through just north of Shanghai, Seoul, South Korea, through northern Japan. We'll be keeping an eye on this, but we may have a couple areas of low pressure systems that try to form into something tropical off the Japanese islands here through the middle of the month. And, they could, regardless whether they become tropical or not, look at the surge of moisture. It is your rainy season here, although this is spilling on into July. But then we start to clear things out, and we flip the tables with Seoul, South Korea, getting a lot of rain here by the 15th. So China drying out, and look at the Philippines. We're socked in with some very heavy moisture here, and we may be talking about potential for more tropical storm action as we head on later towards the 19th into the 20th. All right, looking at your future radar here into North America, you can see as we stretch throughout the rest of the evening into the overnight on Tuesday night here into early Wednesday morning, you can see through 5 a.m. there's shower and thunderstorm action. So yeah, overnight, we're going to be dealing with those storms pinwheeling across parts of Pennsylvania. That's going to be a thing into the Hudson Valley and eventually into southern New England here. That's going to continue down in through the mid-Atlantic as well. And you're going to get some shower and thunderstorm action. This is 4 p.m. on the day on Wednesday here. So here it is. You see this surge of tropical moisture around the subtropical high off the coastline. That is where you're going to get those showers and thunderstorms all the way back through Texas here, unfortunately. And then look at through the mid-Atlantic. That's where the big activity is going to be. It's going to be more scattered to the north here into the Ohio Valley. So watch out. You may get a stray shower or thunderstorm, but the big show is going to be across the mid-Atlantic here, where you could really see here through Wednesday. Look it up to southern New Jersey, westward to Raleigh, and Richmond area. Could see some strong to severe thunderstorms as we head through 3 a.m. on July 10th here, Thursday. And then look at this area organizing just over Lake Erie. Let me just back this up. This really gets going up towards Buffalo on Thursday morning. Watch out. We could have some strong cells out of that. And then the Gulf Coast, yeah, you're going to see this explosion of shower and thunderstorm action. Watch out for your Thursday here across the east. Things are going to get really active with these showers and thunderstorms. This is 2 p.m. on Thursday afternoon. Look at how things are getting cranking around Philadelphia, New York City. Even some stronger cells back through the interior areas as well. And picking up where our feature radar left off here on the GFS model, you can see as we put this into motion, we continue through into Thursday here. So look at this. Yeah, this is the day we're going to have to watch for some potential severe weather along the eastern areas here. And look at this. Yeah, so it's going to explode with development here for showers and thunderstorm action. Here we go into the 10th, the evening hours, the I-95 corridor, and that moves off the coastline. Now, look what starts to happen through the 12th. You get somewhat rain-free. You're still going to have those scattered showers and thunderstorms Saturday, but look at Sunday here, the 13th. As we just move in time here, look at this. Shower and thunderstorm action. We get this tail end of the front. That's what we're going to be watching through the middle to latter part of the month for tropical development. But look at up here into the northeast. Showers and thunderstorm action continuing to bubble up here through the east coastline and Florida here through the 15th into the 16th. There it is. All eyes are going to be on our Gulf system here. And look at this shower and thunderstorm action across the Ohio Valley, the mid-Atlantic through the 17th into the 18th. That makes a run for the East Coast. Look at that. Heading a lot of moisture up into the Canadian Maritimes, but here you have it. We're going to be watching that potential Gulf system moving westward towards Texas right around the 19th into the 20th here. And tropical moisture is going to be rampant across the southeast here. Here's that tropical wave. Look at the severe weather, though. We're going to get that ring of fire trying to set up across the lakes here through the 21st. So we'll watch out here into the plains, into the Great Lakes. We may have some stormy conditions prevailing. Wanted to show you severe weather outlook. Look at this, the mid-Atlantic area during the day on Wednesday. There is a slight risk from southern New Jersey, southeastern Pennsylvania, stretching down through Virginia and western North Carolina. Marginal risk here into the darker green as well out here in the plains, and slight risk here into North and South Dakota. As we stretch here into Thursday, look at this. Yeah, we're seeing slight risk out here in the plains, marginal risk continuing here in the Carolinas and southeastern Virginia. All right, so we're taking a look at the European model, picking up where our future radar left off. So here we go until later on in the forecast period. We're into Thursday morning here. We got the East Coast. We got some big time storms here along the I-95 corridor. This is going to be a thing throughout the day. We get a couple waves of area of low pressure up here, and this is just going to continue in time. So watch out. Storminess finally moving off Friday here. We got this return flow, however. This is going to push some really hazy, hot, and humid conditions up into the east here. But watch out. We got a major mesoscale convective system out here into the Midwest as we go through Saturday the 12th here into Sunday the 13th. That low moves up through Ontario. It does drag a cold front. We may have a squall line moving through eastern Ohio and central Ohio here as we stretch through the mid to late morning on Sunday. And look at this. This is going to be a big old mess here. European going crazy with potential for severe weather across New York, Pennsylvania, eastern Ohio. And this moves eastward into central Pennsylvania and upstate New York, the Poconos, Catskills, Hudson Valley by later on that evening. And Monday night, it kind of fizzles out. By Tuesday morning, or I should say Monday morning here, we're actually getting to another round of showers and thunderstorms developing from New York City up into central New England. That moves off the coast really quickly here. And we're going to turn our attention here July 15th to this area of low pressure. I covered this in the tropics. Just want to reiterate it here. Look at this. This is very, very, very positive signal. Just continuing to show up in the models. Also, we're watching this drop down across the lakes. Mesoscale convective systems are going to get cranking here, so watch out. We're going to continue this hazy, hot, and humid weather pattern. You can see Friday, that's 18th here. Look at this. Another repeat. It just seems like going into every weekend, we're just going to repeat this severe weather chances, and that's going to move eastward throughout Saturday, the 19th. And look at this. I hate to be the bearer of bad news here, but this is just continuing across the east. From the eastern Gulf all the way up the coast, we're just going to surge this tropical moisture. It's just going to continue here. So it's really crazy the amount of shower and thunderstorm action, especially the end of each week into the weekend as this pivots to the east coast, the 20th into the 21st. You can see these waves of low pressure. But look at this. You just take a look at the eastern Gulf. This just sits here. So especially the western Florida area, and then eventually, as we head towards the 22nd into the 23rd, this low really gets cranking. According to the Euro, this looks like it's going to become potentially our next named storm. And total liquid equivalent precipitation amounts here on our European run. You can see, look at across the east here as we head through the weekend. So yeah, we're still looking in these purple areas anywhere from 1 to 2 inches. That's going to continue as we stretch into next week. That's when the tropical moisture really gets cranking. The big concern that we have is a potential for a tropical storm into the eastern Gulf here. There is a slight risk here off the southeast coast as well, but it's looking more and more like this is going to be a Gulf potential storm. Look at all the way up into the Midwest as well. All these readings in the 4 to 8 inch range. Florida, you're going to be looking in some of these areas, if this verifies, 10 plus inches here. And all the way up the coastline, we're looking at deep tropical moisture all the way into South Jersey here with 4-inch plus amounts. Liquid equivalent precipitation amounts here on the GFS. Yeah, through this weekend, look at this. East Coast getting inundated here and all the way through the middle to latter part of the month through the 21st here. Look at this. Yeah, you got some severe weather out here in Iowa. This could produce anywhere from 5 to 8 inches of rain. But look at here across the Gulf. This is where we're looking at our potential Gulf system here. We could be looking at some totals approaching 5 to 8 inch totals all the way up the East Coast here to the Delmarva area in New Jersey, 4 to 5, 6 inches. And before I continue with more weather coverage, don't forget, if you liked the video and you made it this far, smash that like button, everyone. It really does help. Question or comment down below. I love to read and respond to all your questions or comments. Don't forget, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe bell notification button so you're alerted with all my future weather video updates. Also, my Hurricane 2025 Outlook what I think, how many storms we're going to have in hurricanes this year. Link in the description down below and at the end of this video. Let's continue. So your upper air pattern for North America, as we stretch through the rest of this week, you can see there's still some ridging going on. Central part of North America, though, look at this. This is stemming from a massive low pressure up here towards the North Pole. As we continue to put this into motion here, that's going to pivot eastward here. You can see ridging still trying to hold on. But look at this is the start of our potential cutoff low at the tail end of our front. And that's only going to pivot westward as this high pressure builds in. You see the high, though, keeps in control across much of the northeast and southeast Canada here, with very weak systems pinwheeling up and over this ridge of high pressure. But look at off of Florida here. We're still watching that potential for a Gulf storm. And our NAO index is going to go from pretty positive here to seriously negative as we head later in July. That means a more active, blocky pattern setting up across eastern North America. How does our MJO index line up here? It's kind of the opposite. This is weird. We're going from phase 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 throughout the latter part of July and August. So this kind of contradicts the NAO. The two may end up trying to cancel each other out here, so to speak. So for our Canadian weather outlook here, let's take a look. It's starting off a little quiet in some areas, but very active on the west coast here, British Columbia, and also through Ontario. Also, you're getting hit with a little bit of a coastal low here in Nova Scotia, which was left of Chantal there. So that's going to head out over the Atlantic as we head throughout Wednesday into Thursday. You see that storm, it kind of moves inland across Alberta and Saskatchewan, bringing some beneficial rain. Look at these storms heading off into the Gulf of Alaska. It's spreading more heavy rain and wind. Also, Southeast Canada, we're getting a surge of moisture, tropical moisture. Watch out, though, for eastern Manitoba and Ontario during the day, evening and day on July 10th here. Explosive thunderstorm development. We could have a severe weather outbreak. Very concerned about that. Damaging wind, large hail, frequent lightning. And watch this as we head through the 12th. That storm system is going to form an area of low pressure on the southern end of it and right up into Ontario, producing heavy rain, wind, and thunderstorms across Ontario. Unfortunately, here for the weekend, that moves up into northern Quebec. And look at this. We get quite a bit in the way of some thunderstorm action across Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba here just for the later part of the weekend, Sunday into Monday of next week. These are some very strong areas of low pressure diving southward here across Manitoba, Ontario as we head through the 14th. This drags a cold front through the eastern areas. It kind of weakens, though, in time as we head through the 16th into the 17th. I want to just briefly head outward here. Look at this high-pressure system that really takes over. There may be a day or two here where there's almost no drop of rain until we get to later on the 16th here. A big area of low pressure moves into northwest British Columbia. This may actually make it inland to produce some rainfall for these wildfire-stricken areas. But look at southern Ontario and Quebec here. For the 17th into the 18th, we got a large area of low pressure that's going to produce rain and wind for Quebec. All these areas across the Canadian Maritimes, and look at this, some relief for our wildfire areas out here. That is some great news. And our Canadian rainfall amounts here, if we just put this into motion, yeah, it's really active, especially as we head towards the middle to latter part of the month. Look at Southeast Canada here. This is pretty remarkable. Ontario, Quebec, there's some areas getting upwards of 150 to 175 millimeters of rain here. Widespread 60 to 120 millimeter amounts all the way through Quebec, Southeast Canada here, the Canadian Maritimes. A little bit lesser out west here. Look at southern Alberta, though. Yeah, we're getting 125. The coastline out here, British Columbia, yeah, it's active Pacific systems. Even up here into parts of Alberta, northern Alberta, there's a little bit of a rain hole here, but you're still getting rain where these wildfires were burning. Temperatures are going to be really interesting here. We're just going to see a nice shot of some cooler, relatively cooler air here into the 80s. You'll feel it with the lower humidity here on into Wednesday, but look at Thursday. Yeah, that just continues really nicely here across the Midwest, lakes, and Northeast. But I caution you, look what's building out here. Big 100s right in the middle of Kansas here. This is going to expand eastward throughout the week. You can see some cooler temperatures up here in the plains, some beautiful 70s. But look at stretching to the east here. These 90s start to push their way into Saturday across the Ohio Valley, into the Northeast. Look at many readings approaching or eclipsing 90 degrees here into Sunday. This is all up and down the East Coast, many areas approaching 90 at or just above 90 here into the lower 90s. And then into Monday, July 14th, you can see it's pretty toasty across the east here. But the good news is, look there's a big area of 80s here. Look at out west, though. It is boiling into the 100s. Extended forecast from hometown varies. Barrington, Scranton, Upper Susquehanna, River Valley, New York, and Pennsylvania. Take a look at this. As we head through Wednesday, it's going to be a nice day. Partly sunny skies, low to mid-80s, lower humidity. Enjoy it, because look what moves back in Thursday as we get that next frontal boundary moving in. Showers and thunderstorms likely. Some could contain damaging wind, large hail into Thursday night as well. Friday, we continue that chance. Slight chance of an afternoon shower, thunderstorm. And then on into Saturday, look at the weekend. We are going to boil here. We're going to bring those temperatures way up with a chance of showers and thunderstorms with an increased risk of severe weather as we head later on into Sunday night. Watch out. Plenty more weather to come. Here is a look at my affiliate. Check out these awesome, amazing maps. I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning, digital, professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code, MeteoMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than TrilogyMaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code. As always, thank you for joining me for this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. Also, don't forget to join me on Facebook at MeteoMark, also Weather Northeastern, also Twitter at Weather Eastern. Don't forget, it's MeteoMark.com. And don't forget, if you want to send me a coffee, there is a link, Super Thanks. You can smash that Super Thanks button or my PayPal link in the description down below. You can buy me a cup of coffee. Thanks, everyone. Share that video. Subscribe if you haven't. Smash that like button.